Okay, friends, welcome to day 7, I believe, of creativity and productivity tips for writers. My name is Mary Cole with Good Story Company. I have officially lost track of my outfits, so if you have seen me in this before, sorry. All right, so today I want to talk about um, one of the things I really love to bring up with writers, with clients, with anybody that I'm sort of blogging for is this idea of mindset. Because I personally believe that mindset is very, very important to any endeavor that we undertake, creative, otherwise, business, personal, all of that. Mindset could either really hurt or really help your endeavors. And so, for me, one of the most ridiculous topics in the writing world that I think has gotten a lot of traction is this idea of writer's block. I completely understand that people may be suffering from it right now. Creative block, productivity block. There are a lot of things conspiring against us. We have heightened anxiety for everyone across the board. We have more distractions in our homes and personal lives. We are just just hanging on, and I realize that it may be sort of a tall order, maybe even laughably so, to thrive creatively and strive for new things and try new things. All that is to say, you may be feeling blocked. And I completely understand. I am there myself. I am just keeping my nose to the grindstone and hulking through some work right now, but I don't necessarily feel very inspired. However, there are ways around writer's block. And one of the biggest things that I recommend is refusing to believe in writer's block. It really can be as simple as that. That's obviously not the entire tip, but I think people find the idea of writer's block very appealing because it absolves them of personal responsibility. So a lot of the time, I hear writers say things like, "Oh, the muse left me. The muse isn't here. The muse is missing." I get it, because if we put sort of the responsibility for the writing onto the muse, and the muse comes and goes, then I'm just the channel for the muse. The muse isn't here. I don't know. I can't do anything about it. Um, Sorry about the notifications. That can be problematic though, because if you spend your entire time putting the responsibility for creative output on the muse, you may not get very far with your book. And that could be a really big bummer. Yesterday, I talked about quitting and a writer who was discouraged early on and gave up writing for 25 years. Well, I have heard similar stories about people at the mercy of the muse for years and years and years. Oh, I'm stuck on this project. I'm stuck on that. I simply can't continue. Sorry, I'm trying to get this notification snoozed. Well, if you refuse to believe in the muse, refuse the muse, maybe you will actually see it as your undertaking to sort of either run with your creative output or not. And one of the ways that there are two main strategies for sort of getting around the muse requirement, other than just simply refusing to believe in the muse. One would be to skip to a different place in the project where you are. Usually, we encounter writer's block when we know we need to do something. We don't really know what yet. We don't have the idea, right? I like to say that writing is what happens after the thinking is over, which is why I am personally a plotter and an outline fanatic rather than a pantser, because I think pantsers, those who write without an outline, without a roadmap, without an idea, they are very, very vulnerable to then hitting obstacles and roadblocks, and needing a shot of the muse to continue. So I'm an outliner, I'm a plotter, and I think that we run out of ideas, we run out of creative steam and motivation when we hit an obstacle, when we hit something that either we don't want to write right now, we don't know what to write, so we don't, or we know it's problematic and we don't know how to fix it. So if you are the type of writer who only can work on one project at a time, I'm giving you kind of a sneak peek at my second tip here, then I give you permission. Sometimes I spend a lot of my day actually giving writers permission to either do what they thought they wanted to do but didn't have validation for, or giving them permission to abandon something and try something else. So I give you permission to hop over the problematic point and go to the next point where you feel competent and confident. Um, this is especially important when you're just stuck on a scene and you can't see a way forward. Well, the way forward is just to move on, hop over it, and write something that you do know about. A lot of writers, they stop at the beginning because there's a lot of pressure on beginnings. You have to hook a reader, you have to not use too much backstory, you have to introduce tension, you have to introduce character, you have to do it with beautiful writing. And you know that if you're planning on submitting to an agent or a publisher, or even self publishing and attracting readers, you have to nail those first few pages. So pressure is really high. And a lot of writers, they get an idea, they start writing it, and then the needle, or that was more of a car, not a needle scratch. But the car stops right away because you don't know how to sort of do all of this in your beginning, and it intimidates you. So a lot of great potential projects go by the wayside right away because you get creative block because of intimidation with your beginning. So skip over it. Write a few kind of lower stakes, lower intimidation scenes and chapters first. Done. You can always go back to the beginning. And in fact, I do this class for writers on first pages. And in that class, I teach that you will almost always revise your beginning completely, because by the time you get to the end of your story, you are going to realize new things. You're going to realize what your theme is. You're going to want to go back and integrate some of those things, plant those seeds at the beginning. So you're always going to be revising your beginning anyway. So don't get stuck there. It doesn't make any sense. You can always go back, especially after you finish a draft. The other tip would be, if you are the type of person who can work on more than one project at a time, a lot of people get a lot of creative energy by doing this. I would recommend putting a pin in the project that is giving you trouble and giving you writer's block, and then moving on to another project that you may be more excited about. In the meanwhile, your back brain, your creative brain, will keep working on the problem child and all of the issues that you may be having with the project where you're stuck. But your creative juices will be flowing, and you'll be sort of cruising along on the project that is not giving you trouble and where you feel more confident. Now, I know that if you're anything like me, you get ideas at really weird times, like when you're out walking, when you're doing something automatic like showering or driving the car, or sort of right before you fall asleep at night. That's why I've taken to keeping a journal, which was my first tip of this series, by my bedside. Because when I'm sort of like, and my brain is a little looser and a little bit just freer, I often come up with ideas that I wouldn't have otherwise. Um, I think all of us can agree that we don't necessarily come up with our best ideas just by sitting there and like laser focusing on a problem. That's not how the human brain works. So you can't just be like, oh, my beginning is really problematic. And then like an idea pops out. That's usually not how it happens. And so I really like this kind of slalom approach where you hop from one project to another, especially if you feel stuck. This is also a great tip for writing multiple point of view chapters. You are on one character's point of view until something happens, something big, then you ditch and you go to another point of view until something happens. Then you reconnect with the narrative flow of the first character. And you can actually write an entire book that way, just by dropping us off at cliffhanger here, cliffhanger, resolution, new cliffhanger, resolution, new cliffhanger, resolution, new cliffhanger, resolution, new cliffhanger. That's one of the magical things about multiple point of view. Total tangent, by the way. So tip one for fighting writer's block would be to abandon ship where you are in the project, hop over it, and write the next thing that you feel more confident about. Tip two for fighting writer's block, which I choose not to believe in my own work, and I recommend that you just stop thinking writer's block is an option, and then your problem might be solved. Tip two would be hopping to a different project that you may be more excited about. Now, it doesn't have to be, you don't have to have two novels simmering at the same time, but maybe project B is a blog post that you've been writing, or a script for a video that you want to record, or a picture book, or a nonfiction article that you're writing to support your fiction work. It doesn't have to be kind of two huge manuscripts all at once, or kind of the main initial project. So, as I said at the beginning of this talk, I think writer's block is extremely optional. I do not give responsibility for my creative output to a fickle muse, because I'm a personal responsibility gal. Like, I don't want to put that much power in the hands of a fictional entity. I want to take control, and if I'm feeling stuck, I either hop past the part that is keeping me stuck, or I hop to another project. And that way I am making consistent habits, I'm working consistently, and I have very little downtime. It has taken me many years to really put this into practice. I can see why writer's block can be so attractive, because if you're blocked, yeah, you just, I can't do it. Um, but if you're listening to this, this is creativity and productivity tips for writers. I highly recommend trying to tackle your writer's block before it tackles you. This has been Mary Cole with Good Story Company. I believe this is day 7 of the series. I am wrapping it up next Sunday, if it is Sunday, I think it is, with my 14th tip. So stay tuned. Good time to rewatch Finding Forrester. Good idea, from Grandma Curls. Anyway, so keep tuning in at noon for my tips here on YouTube Live, and I wish you health and safety and sanity in this time, and have a wonderful rest of your day. Again, this is Mary Cole with Good Story Company.